for Adrian on
I mean,
I thought this house got on the motion. This house will support buying the leads. I invite the Prime Minister to open the leads.
yeah,
Yeah.
Madam Speaker, we think the whole process of adoption essentially has many flaws in it, which allow for cases of abuse. And not only that, we think that with adoption, basically the mothers who are the ones who are suffering the most, basically we feel that they don't get compensated enough when they allow to give up their babies for adoption. So basically, the two main problems we want to solve with our whole policy essentially is firstly to provide our mothers with that extra compensation because of the emotional and mental duress that she goes through. And not only that, we want to solve instances where forms of baby trading happens, illegal black market baby trading happens, primarily as well in third world countries, Madam Speaker. So basically, how will we be achieving this, solving these two problems? Look at our whole policy, because basically we want to allow for the mothers when they give up their babies for adoption. And what kind of mothers are we looking at? Basically, we're looking at the basic demographic of mothers who give up their babies for adoption. Generally, they are teenage mothers. They are single mothers who come from who have single parent families, who basically can't support their child. And basically, we see that these mothers basically not only do they go through that emotional and mental duress during their pregnancy. Of course, their medical fees are compensated for during their pregnancy as with status quo, but we want to bring it to a further, to a higher level and provide them a big lump sum where we think that it will provide that extra level of compensation. So our policy basically will allow these mothers to be able to ask for a certain amount, and we think that it is negotiable between the mothers and basically the parents that would be adopting the baby. We think that the basic market rules of supply and demand would allow for would allow for a self-regulation of market prices, and we think that compensation would be sufficient in itself.
So, clarification.
Before I go on, yes sir.
Is this based on the third world or the first world?
Now, we realize that this debate would be set, of course, in first world democracies, where essentially there are there's able to be sufficient legislation to be put in place, as well as good adoption practices, which would be allowed to be enforced in first world democracies. So, of course, with on to 2 points of substantive. Basically, firstly, on the point of how allowing these mothers to ask for compensation is sufficient enough to provide that extra level of compensation for the large amount of duress that they go through even after their pregnancy. And secondly, how it will basically solve the problem of illegal baby trading. And my second speaker will be talking about how this financial obligation, introducing money into the adoption process, would allow that greater sense of financial obligation on both sides, and will give the parents who are adopting the child that extra sense of ownership. So on to the first main point of substantive. Basically, we must recognize that pregnant mothers who give up their babies for adoption, basically they're giving away a part of themselves. They go through that large amount of physical duress, because as we know that pregnancy is a tedious process. And not only that, they go through that amount of mental and emotional stress and basically hardship and pain that they go through, because they are giving away a baby in which they feel it is their own.
Yeah, yeah.
The reason why they are giving away the baby is, of course, due to other circumstances. And we think that when they eventually do give up their baby for adoption, they still do feel that sense of pain within themselves. And we think it is necessary to compensate them and provide that extra level of consolation. And we think that is important in order to ensure the welfare of these mothers who basically give up their baby because they don't really have any other choice. So when we give that sum of money to these single parent to these mothers, of course I mentioned earlier the main demographic would essentially be teenage mothers, or mothers who basically are really severe financial difficulty and don't have any ways of supporting their children. So we think that this form of compensation, this sum of money, would allow these mothers to basically progress financially. And we think that that form of compensation essentially would be sufficient in that sense. Now on to the second point of how basically it would combat illegal baby trading, because we see this happening even in first world democracies where it is difficult to obtain, to go through the whole adoption process because of all the legal paperwork it can be given, and basically mothers are essentially more inclined to go through to the illegal route, because essentially they are allowed to ask for exorbitant prices because they are essentially selling their baby away. Now, what we see is that if we legalize it, if we provide a legal route for it, basically these mothers won't be as inclined to go to the illegal sources where it's basically unregulated, and basically that there are cases of exploitation, exploitation and abuse which will happen under the black market scenario. If we allow for a legalized route, essentially what we are doing is we are allowing for more babies to be adopted in that sense. But before I go on to my further analysis,
if money is the goal of these mothers, then wouldn't the black market be a better choice for them?
now we think that due to the cases of abuse that would happen under the black market, we think the mothers would be more inclined to go to the legal route, because essentially the legal route does not have the threat of them being apprehended and prosecuted in that sense. So we think that the legal route would be a more viable alternative and a more viable incentive for these mothers to go through. So we think that that would effectively tackle the whole idea of illegal baby trading in that sense. So basically, what have I told you today? I told you that basically this allowing buying of babies essentially firstly is a form of additional compensation to the mother, which we don't see existing in status quo. And we think it's unfair to these mothers basically. And secondly, basically it tackles the whole problem of baby trade, which we think is a severe problem, not only in the third world but as well as in the first world. And we think that this motion must stand. Thank you.